This is Jessica Jade and I am your host. This is Girl Talk, and today I have the lovely Yadira Garcia, who is better known as the Happy Healthy Latina. And she actually, what she does is very interesting. She takes classic Latino dishes and she kind of just like makes them healthier.
I give them a little spin.
You know, I don't want to say healthy because people get offended like our food isn't healthy at all, but we make them healthier. Yadira has actually been featured on NBC Latino, Dr. Oz, The Chew, The New York Times, and BuzzFeed. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey girl, hey.
Hey. So tell me, Yadi, let's dive right in.
Mamo.
What made you decide to become a chef?
Ooh.
I know we all eat, we all love food, but I'm like, you know, you decided to make it like a career.
Well, first, you know, I love individuality and how, you know, as people we're all so different and varied, but food for me is one of the great equalizers. We all gotta eat, girl. We all gotta eat, and I hope we all enjoy eating. But what I realized is that while it's the great equalizer, we all have very different experiences with it, right? Whether we have too much of it, whether we have a lack of it, whether it's making us feel well, whether it's making us feel sick. Right. Food plays a role in everyone's life. And for me, it's not like I woke up one day and like being a chef hit me. That was the farthest thing away from what I thought I would be doing with my life, actually. I come from a background of theater. So I'm a
totally different
NYC theater kid. So I went to LaGuardia High School for drama. I went to NYU. And so I was always keenly aware that like my body was my instrument. We always talked about that like as a tool in the arts. Like, you know, musicians got their sax, artists can paint, and for actors it was like your body is your instrument. Right. Well, girl, I done died and came back to life. Oh, God. My junior year of college, I had a really bad accident. I fell down 2 flights of stairs, and I became legally disabled. So I have 4 herniated discs in my back. So oh my God. 2 in my neck, 2 in my back. I broke my shoulder. I broke my tailbone. This is why I say like I died and I came back. And overnight, really overnight, I became trapped in my own body. Wow. So I woke up fine one day, not fine the next day, and I realized that not only is food a really important tool in everybody's daily journey, like where you get your energy from, everything, but like it's a very powerful healing tool. Right. And at the time that I was like the sickest, I was thinking about, and like on all these medications for inflammation and pain, I started to think a lot about my grandma. And my great-grandma, you know, God rest their soul. My great-grandma was dropping it like it was hot till 99 years old, like atacando caña y still cooking for herself, still telling people off and what she was and wasn't gonna do, que paño se iba a amarrar, like very cognizant, right? And then I'm seeing myself like very sick and nobody was talking to me about food, just like medication. And I started just to think about our ancestors and our elders and
going back to the basics.
Girl, just back to the roots. I did some what was thought as radical by my medical team. Overnight, I stopped eating like processed food. I decided that I wasn't gonna put nothing in my mouth that I didn't cook and that I didn't know what was going into my food. Wow. Because we're not just what we eat, but what you eat eats. I always say you got to take it one hop over. What you eat eats, right? So I started to think about the way that food is processed in this country and what we're sold to us, even what we're sold to us as our traditional like Latino or Caribbean foods. Girl, I started looking at them labels, girl. And I know a lot of this stuff, a lot of our foods have been culturally appropriated and sold back to us as like, oh, this is your food. That ain't my food, homie.
And then they put so many fillers and junk in it just to keep it preserved so they can last longer.
Those paqueticos de sazón, ya tú sabes.
I know.
I don't mess with
sodium
that.
in that? Girl.
Enough sodium for like 2 days worth, and that's like one time, and ain't nobody using a quarter of a teaspoon, which is the serving size of the paquetico. You know you're going sazón bay on that. Literally. Right? Yeah. So I just started to feel like actually like crazy, like what is going on with our food, with our medical system, with, you know, Western healthcare. And I started just incorporate real food back into my life, like arroz con habichuela, but like switching out the grain to like a brown rice con mi habichuela. If I want something, I make it. And like the ancestors came and lifted me up, I started to heal. Like I went from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane to being well, and that is really the beginning of my journey. I felt like I needed to like testify. So my test is my testimony, and I needed to get back into my community with this information, right? Like we can't lose these traditions.
I know.
And this info.
And it's so easy to, I think, especially, I mean, I'm technically like second generation, right? Because my mom was born here, but my dad wasn't. And I literally was just in Puerto Rico. My mom's Puerto Rican. I was just in Puerto Rico with my great grandmother, and she got her little cane, but she doing the damn thing. She's walking around, she's cooking. She literally cooked us an entire meal in like 20 minutes.
Think about your elders here. A lot of them are in nursing homes. You work your entire life, and then your quality of life, when you're supposed to be like rewarded, is extremely decreased with like chronic illnesses. You can't enjoy your family, yourself. So I'm like, this is not what we were put here for, right? No. This is not what we were meant for. And then I look at our Caribbean countries, and your ancestors and your elders, those are the strong people, the people that have the history, the people that know the natural medicinal, que esta plantica cura esto, this for that. Right? I said, something, you know, technology.
There's a disconnect.
Yes, girl. Technology has done a lot for us, but that storytelling, that oral tradition, that history, I am like keen on trying to preserve it.
I love that.
Update it and give it back.
Right. And it's about informing people. It's about disseminating information in a way that our people can understand and can relate to. Because a lot of the times the doctors are telling people, you know, maybe you shouldn't have so much sugar, or maybe you shouldn't, but they don't know exactly what you eat in your home. And so they don't know how to tailor that information to you. That's one of the reasons I became a health coach.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I know the foods that I should be eating, and I know the foods that my family should be eating. And the doctors are trying to get them to do it, but patients just aren't compliant, because they don't understand it.
And you have to realize that a physician or any medical caretaker, any caretaker you invite into your life, that's part of your wellness wheel, but you are the main gatekeeper of your body and your health. And nobody spends more time with you than yourself, right? Yeah. And so I always say there's intuitive eating, but there's also like intuitive cooking and intuitive self-care, right? And so I'm not here to push bok choy and kale and sprouts and mung beans. I'm talking about yuca, plátanos, coco,
eating food that you
cilantro.
know.
Exactly, that's healing too. Soul food is healing as well. So it's how you make it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's deep. I got goosebumps so many times just now, because it's such a huge issue in our community. You know, like my grandmother had, you know, my grandmother, in comparison to her mom, my great grandmother, has so many more illnesses. And she's lived really the majority of her life in the U.S., even though she was born in Puerto Rico. And she has diabetes, and, you know, tiene arthritis, like arthritis, and her hands hurt. And the other day I gave her some turmeric pills.
Yes, girl.
And she was like, oh my God, Nina, my hands feel better. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, grandma. But that, you know, if I hadn't gone down, it's interesting that you had to go through this traumatic experience to kind of find your calling and to find that thing that makes you unique and special, because granted, everyone is unique and special, but you have a gift.
Unicorn.
You know, you have a gift. You have a gift with food and the way that you talk. I'm telling you. Going into the next conversation, I was watching the Picky Eater Challenge on BuzzFeed. That's one of her shows on BuzzFeed. And I was watching the Healthy Cocina, which is, I think, your YouTube channel show.
Yeah.
And so I was watching it, and I was hooked. Like, I literally watched every single episode, because I'm like, yo, I can identify with this. I understand what she's saying. I recognize the food. And if that's someone like me who's exposed to all sorts of foods because I'm just adventurous, like, what about people who really just can only go to like the corner store or to like the bodega to pick up a few things? You know what I mean?
Well,
like
that's really where like Happy Healthy Latina came from, and like the people chef things that I donned. Yeah. Because no matter what your goals and dreams are, like I realized, you know, I wanted to be an actress, and I also wanted to work with inner city kids, teaching them theater, right? But it wasn't until the absence of my health that I realized that no matter what, that is like a key piece of your GPS, right? So if you don't feel healthy or happy, and happiness is like mental and, you know, soulful and also physical, then you can't really get to where you're trying to go. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm really a dream pusher. You know, I'm really pushing you to feel like the your best self, but we don't have to take ourselves to extreme places to do that, right? So like we have it in our toolkit. And I just love to show that we can, picky eater, like really, once you understand textures and taste and flavors, I like to download them into my mind. You can recreate them with any canvas, right? So that's what food is for me.
That guy with the cauliflower.
It's real.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to look it up. BuzzFeed Picky Eater Challenge. When he was cooking it, he was like, "Oh, this smells so good." I was like, "Yes, that's it."
Yes, that's my thing, to give people that, and also to, you know, because I'm involved in growing your food a lot too. But it's giving people a connection back to things. It's demystifying that it's some awkward, weird thing that's so far away, and giving you accessibility to it. But then putting it into a form that you enjoy and not forcing you to eat something in a way that you don't like it. If you don't like salads and smoothies, don't eat salads and smoothies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know. You gotta... I think that a lot of people misconstrue this idea of being healthy and healthy eating. And like you said, they feel this pressure to eat the bok choy, to have the kale. You don't have to have that. There are people who are allergic to kale, can't even eat it.
Yes, what makes someone well can make someone else ill,
Exactly.
and vice versa. So you really have to respect
Individuality.
Bio-individuality. Everyone is different. You know, your genes tell the story, but what you put in your mouth pronounces how that chapter is going to write itself.
So you mentioned that people call you the people's chef.
Yes.
And I really love that. Can you tell me a little bit about that and the work that you're doing in the community?
Well, the People Chef came because, you know, when you go to culinary school, and when people find out that you're a chef, they always say, whether you're talking to people in the industry or outside, "Oh, where do you cook, or who do you cook for? What restaurant do you cook for? What group do you cook for?" It is the number one question that will come out. Just like,
I had no idea.
Oh, number one, just like when you get engaged, people are like, "When's the wedding?" Or when you get married, "Where's the baby?" Yeah, so you're a chef? Who do you work for? And I became this thing, like, I work for my people. I work in service of my community.
I felt that deeply. Now that I really, you know, because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, you think you have like an idea of what you mean by the people's chef, but when you say that, I'm like, that's deep. You're like, that's who I cook for.
That's who I cook for. That's who I show up for every day, right? For equity and justice and healing in my community, whether that's working with children and in schools, whether I'm advocating for like actual nutrition education and policy. Girl, when I went to culinary school, I never thought, like, I'm going to City Hall next week, right? To talk to, like, on the steps to testify about nutrition in schools. The places this journey has taken me.
Who would have thought?
But I always say that's what I'm in service of, creating for my community, for my people. So whether that's cooking classes, whether that's working with a not-for-profit community-based organization, whether that's creating culturally relevant nutrition programs for schools, whether that's sharing an Instagram story where I'm showing you how to do some ropa vieja, but with jackfruit, with ropa nueva, and get those tastes, or we're putting some turmeric in our sofrito. Right? Like, that's what I say. That's the only that's the only place I'll ever cook for, my people.
I really love that. And I guess on that idea, what kind of impact would you like to leave behind as a chef, as the people's chef?
Ooh, that's loaded. Ooh,
it is.
That's heavy. That's girl, because, you know, in the journey 3 years ago from when I started was to just give people tools to feel better, and to have their culturally relevant foods, and, you know, debunk that they're bad for us. And the journey has evolved so much in the past 3 years because, you know, on average, I can teach anywhere from 200 to 500 community members every month. Wow. And in being involved in our food system and realizing, like, our healthcare system is broken, girl.
It sure is.
It's broken. That not everybody has the same accessibility and equity to everything. Right? So, and that means that you should not have to leave your neighborhood to access fresh food.
Absolutely.
You should have access to a farmer's market. It should not feel like this out of the world thing. A school should have fresh food, right? Or nutrition education in schools. And I realized that while we study math and history, outdated history, patriarchal history that needs to be decolonized. But anyways, we could,
that's a story for
that's another chapter. But where are we giving people the tools to know how to treat themselves and heal themselves well? So part of my legacy is not just making flavorful dishes and making it accessible and enjoyable, because we all know we're gonna die if we don't do some things that are good for us. But that's not what gets people to make a change. It's a feeling, right? It's a feeling. So that's why I often dance when I cook. I talk. I bring my mom. I weave in stories. Even though I'm like, okay, there's a culinary technique called blooming, which is when you add the spices to a fat. But then I'm like, but my abuelita did that in the pilon, so maybe she didn't know that was called blooming. But we've been done this. There's levels to this, right? So it's the, for me, it's the enjoyment and the connection and the passing down of the cultural oral history of our foods and healing. But then it's also to advocate for my community, to kick in the door, wave in the 4-4, right? To get into the room where it happens. Obviously, I'm a 90s kid too, from New York, baby. But it's to get into these spaces, right? And for us, by us, we don't need people projecting into our communities and our schools what wellness looks like or what we need. We can advocate for those things as well. So for me, I'm heavily involved at this part of my journey in creating programs that I can leave behind. So
that's sustainable when you're gone, because you're one person at the end of the day.
It's Happy Healthy Latina. I'm not Happy Healthy Latina. It's a movement. It's from my community. I always say, our little, like, for example, our little Instagram Comadre community has recently grown to like 11K, right? So I say I come as one, but then we come in as 11,000, right? Because it's about creating those spaces and holding spaces in our community.
That's beautiful, girl. I love that. And as someone who has celiac disease and all these other things, I relate to that so much. Like, I feel you. And because we have a healthcare system that's so jacked up, we have to have preventative care. And what's better than healthy food that's gonna make you feel good and make you look good and make you happy and healthy? Like that's
what the simplicity of it is. I'm trying to be simple about it. I'm trying to get back to the roots, and I'm trying to share, and for us to crowdsource knowledge. We all got a little piece. I think when you come to a class, it's not about me teaching, it's about us sharing and connecting, right? It's like a good recipe. You bring it all together. A little bit of it. Exacto. That's all we're doing up in here.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and for being so passionate and doing the work that you're doing in our community, because it's needed. And I want to thank you for watching Girl Talk, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
So thankful.